Hi, Kanwar. Can you hear us?
Hey, yes, again.
Hi. Are we waiting for the architect and the landscape architect to log in as well?
The landscape architect, yes.
Okay. Is the architect attending as well?
No, the architect is in another ADP meeting that's happening at the same time in another municipality.
Okay. So, Kanwar, should we just wait for the landscape architect to log in and then we can start the meeting?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so first, I would like to call this meeting to order. It's 2 o'clock. Could I have I can call it to order without anyone, right? Okay. So then second, I'd like to move to have adoption of the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have okay, Michael first, seconder? Okay. Thank you. And then we'll move right along into the agenda for today. And it's a review of 1209 Island Highway East. Can I just move right into asking the applicant? So I'm going to ask the applicant. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm going to ask you, first remind everyone that we need to be conscientious of using our mics so that the online viewers are able to hear us. And I'm going to ask the applicant if you could please move through the design and highlight how you've responded or not responded to the recommendations that were made from this ADP, so that we can have a clear understanding of what has changed or what hasn't changed, and maybe a better understanding of why. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you very much. I'll quickly share my screen here as well, just so I can run through the changes. Are you able to see my screen? Yeah, it looks like right there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So just running through the comments section by section. The first point was to look at the architectural design and character, including the form and building and roof slopes. We took a look at a number of precedents in the area, other projects that were approved under the same guidelines, and we felt like we were in alignment with what other approved projects and had essentially built in the past. And we also do like the design. The potential tenants we're working with do like the design as well, and we do feel like that it does generally complement the natural character of the area. In addition to that, we took a look at the sloped roof, and there was a comment previously made about the us going a sloped roof shouldn't really change the cost of the project much, but we did analysis, and it does actually make a difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to a sloped roof, particularly when you have a lot of mechanical and restaurants coming in. There's a lot of mechanical equipment that needs to go on the roofs too, and having a sloped roof just makes the mechanical aspect harder, and also adds a lot of material in raising that roof as well. And we felt like the design that we have currently fits well with what's been approved previously in the city, and we feel like will be a good complement to the natural character of the area. So the next item was once I go through the architectural side of things, I'll let Meredith speak to the landscape side of things. The next comment that related to the architectural side of things was section 6 about the pedestrian walkways. So we did make some changes there. So we did connect building B to building C and D here. We thought about connecting building A and B, but felt like this is going to be a high traffic area where there's a lot of cars coming fast entering the drive-through. So we felt like it wouldn't be in the best interest of pedestrians to add a pathway there. And yeah, so we've added some more connectivity. And we've also increased the number of accessible parking stalls in front of this building as well. And section 7 was related to parking and the non-pervious services. So we did add an additional picnic area here with that will be concrete, and we changed this area to be a concrete area as well, with the bike stand on concrete as well. Comment 8 was related to the solar orientation and shading considerations. We felt like this exposure to the main road is the best placement of the building, similar to how the old building that was burnt down was placed. And even speaking to the tenants that we do have offers in place with, and other potential tenants, they agree with us as well. So that's pretty much it on the architectural side of things. Meredith, I'll hand it over to you for the landscaping.
Good afternoon. My name is Meredith Mitchell with M2 Landscape Architecture. I will just share my screen. Sorry if I can get that. Let me know when you can see this.
Yes, thank you. We can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll run through general comments first for landscape, and then I'll go into more specifics. But ultimately, based on the previous ADP panel, one of the comments was ensuring the plant material is appropriate to a coastal or a Douglas fir forest. So you can see in the plant list that we have modified some of our plant material to be native plant material. So we had approximately, I think, 4 species previously, or 3 species previously, and now we actually have increased the number of species to be more native. They are still considered to be drought tolerant and lower maintenance, but we have added some more plants that are appropriate for coastal Douglas fir forest, and we have added more plant material in general to increase green permeability to the site as well. So that was a couple of comments that we heard and we have reacted to. Camara has also commented on some additional circulation. So I did want to just point out that what we did do is modify some of the circulation pattern in some of these areas. So we actually do have a crosswalk going across here, and we continued this pathway right out to the entrance at this point. We also added a concrete plaza area with a couple of picnic tables, also a bench, some bike racks to add some functional usable space in here. It's also surrounded by deciduous trees on the south side, some conifer trees on the north side to provide a more secluded space. It's a little bit protected from vehicular traffic and vehicular parking here, and obviously through the queuing space in this area. We also added a connecting pathway out to this side. So you actually have pedestrians coming here or pedestrians coming here. An additional thing that we also added was a secondary crosswalk in the back, just along in here to ensure that the garbage enclosure was safe and identified from a pedestrian and vehicular conflict standpoint. We've increased the amount of trees and planting in the back here to provide a nice sort of green face off of the back of this intersection, the Northwest Bay Road. And to continue with that, we have a pedestrian circulation all the way around the entire building on this side. And then with that, and here I'll just go to the next plan. This is building B, which is actually this building here. This is the existing building that's being retained and modified. And we have added additional tree planting. We didn't have trees in front before because this was considered existing condition. But we did actually add 4 trees in front of building B that provides additional green face from the Island Highway side. And then with that, there is also additional secondary seating plaza at this point. And it's really just intended to be for use for the proposed coffee shops that are potentially here and here to provide some secondary uses. And because the way, as Kanwar has noted, generally it is frowned upon to provide a pedestrian access across the queuing space of potentially what could be vehicular queuing area. We're trying to ensure that anybody who's parking in this area has an opportunity to use this coffee shop and then the plaza on this side, and then this area here, including where the daycare is, to have the plaza in this location. So there's ample opportunity for amenity for users of the commercial space on both sides of the site. With that, we've also reduced the amount of aggregate and dry stream bed and increased the amount of planting both on this side here. We've also added reference to the slopes and rough grass areas. And you can see here how this is a sort of a hollow. This is still intended to be a rough grass area. And then we've increased the amount of planting on the frontage here where this driveway entry is, which is an existing driveway entry. We've also added, as requested, pedestrian access across in this location in front of building D out to the Island Highway frontage. The other primary comment that I want to talk about was the retention and protection of existing trees on site. So you can see here that these circles are the existing trees on site that we are coordinating with the arborist, which has been updated. The arborist report was submitted with the package, I believe. And we're going to be working very closely with the arborist to ensure that the existing trees are protected and we have appropriate planting for understory within those areas with some supplemental conifer planting here. This is still intended to be a paved area for potentially a restaurant patio in the back. We've provided separation. And then on top of that, we've actually added some supplementary planting in behind, this is intended to be the daycare area. It is still not programmed at this time just because we are waiting to ensure that the tenant has their opportunity to provide their own comments regarding the programming of this space, but it is entirely fenced off with a gate, orange here, for these 2 areas with referential, just sort of type of resilient surfacing and paving for different types of program spaces. We still have a walkway surrounding the back, but it is intended, this is actually broken off here, fenced off here to ensure that there is some security separation between general public use. And this area in behind here is really just intended for daycare use only. So with that, just as this was a quick excerpt of landscape requirements, and I'm happy to answer questions at this time if you would like. I can leave this plan up, or I can cut it back over to Kanwar if he wants to share an overall site plan as well.
Great, thank you very much. I think what I will do is open up the floor to the advisory design panel members. If you have any specific questions you need answered for clarity on some of the changes before we comment with whether or not we have further recommendations or not. Is there?
I had one question. I was just looking through here about the setback request, the reduction of setback request. Was that actually in our proposals? I mean, what we sent to the what we sent to the architects, because we discussed it about, like, now I'm just trying to refresh our memory, like, we discussed the requirement or the request to reduce the setback at the bigger two-story building. And I mean, I remember saying that I thought that was inappropriate because we have space, and that would be really tough because it's a tall building and it's already squeezed. So did we actually request that from them?
I don't, I'm not remembering clearly.
We don't-
Michael.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
we
isn't-
didn't put it in,
I think that
I
in the
think
end.
Kyle,
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. We focused on the points in the Parksville plan, or in these points that are in the plan, but I don't, that's in the zoning, right? That's a separate area. So
Yeah.
we might have overlooked that
and
one.
typically we can express our opinion, but it's really up to the city staff on those matters.
Right, well,
Yeah,
that's why we're called
yeah,
advisory.
Yeah. No, but I mean specifically about a variance or that they may ask for.
Well, it was put before us whether we would think that's a good idea. And I remember saying, no.
Through the chair, if you don't mind, addressing Mr. Karachowicz or Dr. Karachowicz's question about the setback. There was some discussion about the tenancy, their potential tenancy having a very specific size of building. And that was their rationale for why the setback could not be reconsidered at this time.
Okay, we're commenting, that was just for clarification, okay? So
Yeah,
can I
okay.
also did we actually did we make a response to that? Or did we not?
There was no response or recommendation
so that
for
was
the
an oversight.
variances in the recommendation list, no.
Yeah. Okay,
Do you have any questions since you're speaking for clarity to the applicant or the landscape architect?
no questions, but comments.
Okay,
So we'll do that. later.
okay. Does anyone on the panel have any questions that?
Yes, I do. Can I address items that may not have come up in the last meeting? Okay. And this is really, I guess, clarity and questions. So when I was looking at the plans, first of all, I'm just looking at the CRU canopies. And so the extent, the extent of those canopies. So I'm just also looking at the end CRU units and some of the buildings where there's glazing on the side of the building. I would suggest that the proponent add some canopies on that side as well. So that's one comment. In terms of clarity, the CRU signage, are they individually lit channel letters or backlit channel letters? That's a question.
Sorry, could you repeat that question, please?
This is respect to the CRU signage. And I'm just wondering, are they individually lit channel letters or backlit channel letters?
I'm just gonna quickly review the drawings and get back to you on this.
Okay. And another point, when I go through downtown Parksville, I see a lot of rooftop units on single-story commercial buildings. And, they're pretty ugly. So I just want to inquire as to how the proponent is going to screen rooftop units on these buildings. Any response?
Yep, so the actual parapets, so the facade of the building does go up higher than the actual roof of the building, so that will provide for some screening there. And the sloped roof there will also help out.
Yeah, you can put floating screens too around rooftop units. So they can be designed, to accommodate, the height or the volume of any rooftop unit. Just as an aside, I know that on sloping roofs, and I've had experience on this on buildings where if you can imagine an indentation into the roof just a bit larger than the footprint of the rooftop unit, where the rooftop unit is sort of hidden, sort of tucked in to a portion of the roof. And so on a number of angles, you can't even see it. And sometimes you can just paint that volume of that indentation, and you can paint the rooftop unit. So I've done that on a restaurant building with a sloping roof. In terms of the building, the two-story building, I see there's a reference to an elevator tower. Is there going to be an elevator, like penthouse mechanical room on that roof? It's not on an elevation drawing, it's on a plan view drawing. And it shows it's just labeled elevator tower. I'm trying to find it.
Sorry, you're referring to this building here, and that's the elevator. And what's the exact question?
Yeah, well, there's another drawing that references that as an elevator tower. And I'm just I can't remember what drawing that was. No. It's a line drawing.
Site plan, you mean?
No,
Not an elevation.
oh, here it is. Here it is. It's building C roof plan. So A 1.6.
There's no tower in the elevations. Nothing extending except for those parapet walls.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of wondering about it, because it says elevator tower here on this drawing.
I think that in a building that's small, you can use an elevator which has an internal mechanism on the
Yeah.
side. You don't need
Machine
to.
room less
You
elevator.
wouldn't do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so is that what you're going to be using, a machine room less elevator system? Hydraulic
Yes.
attraction?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because I don't like sort of elevator penthouses sticking up on the roof.
Yeah, and
Great.
as for your question related to signage, all signs to be low level and floodlit and should employ the use of wood and stone finishes.
I'm sorry, what was that?
All the signs will be low level and floodlit.
Okay, so
For
so this
sign-
is the CRU signage, right? On each CRU storefront?
Yes,
So there'll be, so you're saying these signage is not on the face of the building? It
I
is on the
think it
face.
refers to that, yes, the signage most likely will be channel signage and not individually lit letters.
Okay, so it'll be channel signage that it's backlit then, in other words.
Yeah, it'll be lit as a whole instead of individual lettering, yes.
Yeah, backlit, yeah, okay. Okay, so, but I do want to emphasize that you make a serious attempt to screen those rooftop units.
That's something
Yeah.
that we can definitely coordinate with the architect about.
Right.
Yeah.
There's other municipalities on the Lower Mainland that don't give you a choice.
Mm.
You know, they're very strict about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I personally don't like the way they look either. These elevations show that they'll be hidden from both sides, but for example, from this angle, you can see a mechanical unit there. We'll try to hide them as best as we can.
Okay. Fair enough. Thanks.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions before making comments? Or wait, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I just have a question, maybe it's, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but regarding the additional seating, I wonder if there was any consideration to, if there is still additional, like extra parking that's absolutely needed, is there any consideration to providing some seating for, let's say, for Building B, Serious Coffee is there now, whoever's there in the future, across from it? I guess I'm just questioning the placement of that additional seating around the corner of the back of the building, understanding how people use coffee shops and how the staff works. So I'm just wondering if it could just be in a couple of those parking spaces, take those up.
So
Um,
the Serious Coffee is likely going to relocate to one of the newer buildings. So they'll most likely be building A, and they might even take the drive-through. That's still in preliminary conversations, but we felt like the reason we chose this location was because there's a pathway here, and further to your comment last time, there's a lot of people that come down Northwest Bay Road, come through here into this plaza, grab a coffee, and we feel like it'd be nice for everyone that does do that to come through here. The first thing they see is their friends hanging out here, that just grabbed a coffee from over here and just walked over. We did consider putting something at the front here, but we felt like with the amount of traffic that might be going through this plaza, this is going to be a little bit of a pinch point because of the way the existing building is designed, and we just don't want cars to be trying to squeeze through here while there's pedestrian just sitting inches away from them, and potentially hitting the curb or something like that. So we felt like this would be a nice place for people to walk through the forest here up or the trees here, and up toward this building, maybe catch their friend sitting here, have some conversations, walk over, grab a coffee, and then come back and join their friends.
In addition to that, it was definitely reviewed as to the front there, but it was felt that the noise was an issue from Island Highway, from the parking. It's a little bit quieter on the back on the New Bay Road side. Plus, on top of it, it actually is in good visibility to the front of the daycare, including the amenity area, plus the entry to the Building C. So we felt that was a better compromise towards usability of that area, to have a seating area on the Bay Road side, because it was pointed out that the Bay Road side is actually a more popular pedestrian area in comparison to the Island Highway side.
Just a question then as well. Is there, two thoughts about that, but is there, and I'm not clear from the design, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in this area, but is there in fact a pathway from that sort of between Building B and Building C? Is there a pathway that leads out to Northwest Bay Road? That's not very clear to me.
There is an existing granular path right now, and that is intended to be retained through the existing tree retention area. It's identified and on the planting plan, on the landscape plan.
I'm very familiar with that gravel
Yeah,
path.
we're keeping that path.
I am curious, if I have coffee and I'm taking it out there, then afterwards I'm going to carry my ceramic cup all the way back over and put it down. I just don't see that as being really.
I doubt they'll let you
usable.
use a ceramic cup outside. I expect that they will have to-go cups. They most of the time. Yeah, they would not allow you to take a ceramic cup outside of the building.
And yet, right now, that is in fact what happens. People go out and they have the spot to put them all in, and so we don't use as many disposable cups. Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions before I move forward? I have one for the landscape architect, Meredith. Thank you for going through your design and showing us where you've made some adjustments and based on our comments and recommendations. I hate to get nitpicky about the plant palette, but I'm really curious with the pinus that you have specified why you chose the lodgepole pine and not the contorta that actually grows on the island? And if there was a specific reason, and then if there wasn't a specific reason, I think it would be great if you just made some minor adjustments to a few of those plants so that they're matching what is existing and growing right around the site.
I think the reason why we chose the lodgepole is because they do have a tendency to grow taller rather than the Pinus contorta, which is the shore pine. And the intention here was to actually have something a little bit taller. We can certainly take any comments regarding plant material palette under advisement.
Yeah, well, the contorta is part of the coastal Douglas fir ecosystem. The lodgepole is not in ours. So I think just in keeping with the character of that area, I would strongly suggest, but that's kind of getting into the minutia. I just sort of wanted to know if you had some insight into why you're just looking for something taller, but I think you can achieve the same with the one that's growing. Anyway, I don't have any questions, so I think we're going to move to our comments regarding the response we were presented with here today to our recommendations we previously made. And I'm wondering who would like to go first? Michael? Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi. I don't know where to look. This room's strange. Like I'm talking to somebody way up there or a tiny postage stamp face. Okay. I'm going to be a little bit direct here. I'm going to just take the list of items that we talked about. I'm not going to talk about the landscape because that's not really my field, and I think it's fairly well covered. I'm going to start with number one about the natural character and area characteristics. And I'll preface it by saying that we made a bunch of recommendations and we discussed this quite intensely last time. And to have somebody come back and simply say, effectively, what you said doesn't matter, what you said isn't true, and come back with basically the same thing and start telling us a few things about it, isn't really doesn't make my use of 2 hours very useful here, you know? So I'd just like to put that in there. You say that the roofs will increase the cost by hundreds of thousands. That's just a statement. My counter statement is it won't increase the cost by hundreds of thousands. It's just talk. Number two, your examples for the area.
We have pricing on this from a general contractor.
That's fine, but you can design it in many different ways. If you showed us that pricing and a comparison, then we could talk about it, but we don't have that. So it's just a statement.
The number is $300,000.
That's fine. I think it's arguable. Your examples for the area are interesting because you chose all of your examples from the other side of the river. And I think one of the things that we discussed in this, our last session is how this area is still, largely trees. It's largely undeveloped. It's becoming developed now quickly, but there's an idea that the character here has some merits that are often lost. And your examples are from an area where it's been lost. I personally, I don't know about the other members on the committee, but I personally feel that these buildings are the examples you've given and the general attitude toward this project is for something that I think a lot of people in town wouldn't want to see happen. They wouldn't want to see this area turn into a strip. And so the fundamental idea of coming here and saying, okay, this is a strip along a highway, I think is probably not how most people are thinking about this area yet. And as I mentioned last time, this piece is a kind of a keystone. If this piece becomes a strip building, very, blatantly, which it is right now, in my opinion, then you have turned it into a strip. So the question before this panel right now is, can we direct this in some way where we don't have that happening because of this development? That is the real question. So it may appear to you that this is just another building. They're small. We're using a renovation. It's an old building and all those kind of attitudes. And of course, if you look around Surrey and most of the area around GVRD, you've got this happening hundreds of times. I grew up in Coquitlam. I know how those streets, Austin Avenue and all of that are. And that's not this place. It's not this place yet. So comparing this to a DQ or to Wembley Mall is kind of showing us something like, well, Parksville already has some of these buildings, and if that's the standard we've got, we can go there. So personally, as an architect, I don't think that's necessary to do that. And I don't think it's a real cost question. Plus, long-term, I'm not sure what you're trying to achieve here, because you can cut down the cost of the building for development, but there's a balance between the longevity of the value of the building. How valuable is this building in the long term? So I'm not sure that what you're trying to achieve here makes sense in terms of its value. So cutting into the details, I will say a parapet is not a roof. And a vertical element, even in your example, is a chimney. It's not an entrance. The vertical element is essentially a parapet which has been clad toward the ground to show that it's a separate element on the building. But to say it's a roof is like, it just doesn't work. To nail a board on the front of a parapet at an angle and call it a sloped roof, just, it could work. I mean, I could think about doing it myself, but it's pretty weak. And they're repeating in this way. It has no structural, no formal real relationship. It's like a sign of a roof. And I appreciate the idea of a sign in architecture, but this is a sign that represents a strip building. And I think most of us here agree. If you don't, I'm saying it for myself, from my side. Overhangs are a question that I'll address in terms of the solar issues that we have later on. As far as the location of the building, again, it's pretty clear you made no real effort to look around or show us anything else. So that point is basically stuck. I don't know if this panel will, say, okay, well, we'll just give up now. But I personally think that there are other options which were alluded to just now when you said there's so much noise from the highway. Well, noise from the highway can be controlled, not maybe in terms of how loud it is, but by how you feel when you're in a space. And the kind of spaces you've created here are what we call negative spaces. So you never feel you're anywhere when you're outside the building. There's no spaces between the buildings that are habitable. They're places you go to just drive through or pass through. So the site itself is like a series of streets, and there's no real yard or place for respite on the site. And that can be created by the addition of these buildings. As far as the I don't know, what are we calling it? Accessible stalls, accessible parking stalls, you added one. Our request was for multiple. We have multiple buildings. So that's my next comment. And number 8, the analysis for solar control and yeah, it doesn't seem to be there. You've got overhangs on the south side, which are good, but this building does not actually have a real analysis behind it, it looks like. To me, I don't see a real analysis of solar energy penetration and solar control. I think the building is done on a series of assumptions where the commercial aspect is primary rather than mixing into it the advantages you can get by controlling the solar gain, which is a big deal these days. So I'm sorry, I'm going through all these points. I've noted them so we can go back. I got 2 more.
Yeah, I just want to just stop you for a minute because I'm noticing something up on the screen that the applicant seems to be sharing different projects elevations, and I'm not sure the appropriateness of that right now.
Yeah, so
Try
I
to-
just wanted to
And
pull
it
this
is a
up.
very different context, that building from this building.
Which one
This
is that
is-
one?
That's the affordable housing project that the Lions.
The one that we approved last year?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, from
no.
my, yeah,
So
I
the reason
don't,
pulled this up was because it was brought up by the committee during the last meeting, and Kyle, one of the items the committee had asked was to have Kyle share these drawings with us for us to review and take into consideration when we were doing our design. So just thought I'd pull it up as another example of a design that was approved recently.
yeah, and we're all
it-
aware of our, sorry to interrupt you, but in respect to all of us here, we are all aware of the projects that we have reviewed and right now, I don't think it is relevant because you have not changed anything on your building. You have not presented us with something that is different based on our recommendations. So anyways, I'm just gonna turn it back over to Michael. I think we can't comment on you showing us examples that aren't the actual drawings you're going to be submitting. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to go back to Michael.
okay, thank you. I'm not gonna be going much longer. May I comment on his projection of that building? Is that all right? Or should I leave it? Okay, all right. So, as a member of this panel, I'm just trying to stick not only to the 9.7 Craig Bay Resort area requirements, but obviously those requirements are put down to represent a spirit and a quality. It's not just the letter of the law, so to speak. I don't know if it's a law. I guess it is a kind of law, but I don't think we have to stick to it like a law. Obviously, it's a guideline. But this is not being followed in spirit or in letter right now. There's a lot of things which we're not going to get, like any kind of a buffer on the front between the highway on the areas that are not existing or pre-existing. But okay, going to my last points, I would like to bring up that setback again and say that right now you have a plan that is set and designed right down to parking places, and the need to make the buildings in the shapes they are is not, how could I put it? At some stage of the design, it's easy to make that setback work. And at some stage of design, you've created a situation where we're going to have to ask you to take a lot of steps back to create that setback. That's the real issue here. It's not unsolvable. And so I would like that to be on record, that this is probably an unnecessary compromise. Finally, I just wanted to put that, again, going back to my initial comments, design is one of the lower cost components of your project here. Design is a lower cost proportion of your cost. And a part of your cost that has the potential to increase the value of your project down the line. So I'm always going to remark that when somebody's trying to get away with paying less for design, in a certain sense, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you could do better for not a huge investment. And those are my comments. I don't know how they're going to be itemized later on, but I thought I'd just go through that by making it clear that I think that we said earlier that there's certain aspects of this building as a strip building, which seems to be an assumption, which we are trying to work with you to avoid. That would be my summary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Who would like to comment next? You would, okay.
Normally
you.
I get to go last, but no, I'll go ahead. Thank you. I will say that, Michael, I really appreciated your last line. I thought that was really well put. I would like to thank the landscape architect for coming back and doing some additional work on the landscaping. I think that, that is helping. Okay, I'm particularly pleased to see the additional plantings that are bordering 19A. I think that's, again, very helpful to help soften things. I understand, I think, what you're saying about the plan is here to move those other picnic tables away, but I will come back to that in that on the one hand, we can't have a pedestrian path. You're saying that there shouldn't be a pedestrian pathway from building A over to building B because it would go across that drive-through. And yet there can be a pedestrian path between building A over towards that seating area, which actually has the very same cars going around and out and through. So it seems to me that if it can exist there, one should be able to also have it in the other spot. I just really think that if, and whether or not Serious Coffee is moving or if the existing coffee shop area is still geared to be a restaurant, then having some seating area that's actually adjacent to it or across from it, I think would really enhance the plan. Again, going back to actually a comment that Michael made about although you might be beside a highway and it can be fairly busy at times, it kind of goes in fits and starts there, but one can create a setting that still makes it people friendly, and it would be very attractive for people coming along to actually see people sitting outside or see tables, even if people aren't sitting at them. So I still, I would just love to see more of a vibrancy, I guess, in the exterior. That space between building A and B seemed very, very narrow. I wondered if you might even consider eliminating one of those retail units at the very end to create some additional space, and that would still allow for a drive-through, which on the other hand, if you eliminate the drive-through, it would eliminate a lot of problems. But I know that's not the palette. But again, opportunities to have more people space in places that more at the front of the building and not necessarily just around the corner. I think it would enhance the whole project quite a bit. I also have a question, and this is regarding, and again, if it does go ahead to be actually a drive-through, I see that the menu board or where people would be placing their order appears to be at the back of the building. And I do not see any concrete wall or solid anything across there to stop that noise from going out toward neighborhood residences. And I'm sure many of us have been in situations where you hear that sound travels a long way. I wonder if either there could be some kind of a solid barrier that would really block that, or perhaps even placing it between building A and B, having the electrical go over there, and then that would stop that. We have some examples of some drive-through restaurants in town, and fortunately for both the A&W and also Tim Hortons, they happen to be in such a spot that there is a solid building beside them, and nearby residents or people out on the street are not hearing people placing their orders or how much they cost. So I wonder if there's any thought to changing that. I'm also wondering about the light. I've seen some examples where lighting, and I'm not sure when you say low-level backlit, again, I would hate to see something that causes light intrusion. I think that's a terrible thing for neighbors that might be seeing that. So again, it's just not clear to me what the lighting is like. I don't know if there's lighting along the back of the building, which again could be going into across the street or disturbing people over there. That's all from me right now. Thank you. Okay. One more comment, I'm sorry. Something that I had brought up before is I would love to see a different palette. I shouldn't think that changing colors changes things a lot, but maybe it's just the copy here, but it just seems quite dark that we get gray and black and this sort of brown. And wouldn't it be nice if there were lighter colors, sand colors, a different palette that doesn't look so industrial?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maribel. And Christine, would you like to go ahead?
I would. I wasn't here last time, so I wasn't here for the discussion. But I'd like to thank Michael, because just you gave me a glimpse of what is possible. And this isn't my area of expertise at all, architecture or that, but I know how great buildings, whether they be commercial or otherwise, can make people feel, and how they can make a town feel. And I agree, some of the examples, the mall, the Canadian Tire Mall there is truly ugly. What a difference it would make if we had something that showed the character of the town. And I think Parksville really wants to be that. That's what they want. That's what we want to be, and what a difference it would make, and how it makes people feel, I think is the biggest thing. So again, I know I have no expertise whatsoever in architecture or costing or any of that, but I do know how good architecture makes you feel. And that's really my only comment today.
Okay, thank you, Christine. And do you have some further comments? Sorry.
That's all right. Well, I tend to agree with Michael's comments in a general sense. I think you can change from these drawings, change the character of the design, and also kind of color. I tend to like commercial buildings that tend to have sort of a range of a palette of colors, of some pop of colors, and so I would just echo those remarks.
Okay, thank you. I will just sort of finish with a couple comments, and then maybe we may discuss how we want to proceed. Well, firstly, thank you for coming back and giving this presentation. And I appreciate that the landscape architect made effort within the constraints of the site plan that really didn't change, but you looked for opportunities within your constrained site to add some of the elements we requested. I believe as the design advisory panel, we were really looking for this team to take our recommendations to heart and to really look at how they could be applied in a meaningful way. And I don't, from my perspective, I haven't seen that at all. And you have, as the applicant stated, you feel the building is appropriate based on the precedents you've shown from this community. But as noted by other design panel members, those are precedents that aren't in this Craig Bay area. What did we call that? Design development permit area. Thank you. It's been a long day. But interestingly, one of the examples you did show has a proper sloped roof. And so you are showing us what can actually be done and you're not doing. And so I feel you have come, from my perspective, not enough has been done to the buildings to address our recommendations. Well, nothing has been done. And the site alterations are very minimal. You've squeezed in what we've asked with what you already had instead of making meaningful change to the site design and contemplating the building siting, the building form, the building shape, and all of that. So I'm just making that comment. And as a panel, so we move forward with our recommendation. We have, as we all know in our booklet, we have a couple options of how we move forward. We can accept the project as presented without recommendation. We can accept it as presented in principle with aspects to be revisited, or we can request for reconsideration by the panel, so for it to return. Now, I'm not confident. I'm also conscientious of the fact that this project has come back and we haven't seen any meaningful change or response to our recommendations. And I'm not confident in further change happening. But that's not to say, but I'm not, I'm just making a comment now. We are going to ask them, most likely my request will be to, for this project to come back and to stay with our previous recommendations, and maybe we may have additional recommendations to add or some clarity around our original recommendations. And that would like to see them come back and respond to those recommendations. I am worried it's going to come back and we're not going to see change. So that's just how it goes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Michael?
I agree with your assessment, but I am more hopeful because I think that a lot of times, from my experience, that there might be a discussion saying, let's just see if this will fly if we try it a second time, because in so many cases it does. And you know, since they didn't expend too much money or time on it to date, they haven't lost much. So I think that maybe if we make it clear that there's a stronger intent behind this, that they'll say, okay, we'll make some adjustments to our, you know, they're going to have to make adjustments to their financial program to put in more hours and so on, but that they would be able to do this.
Okay, I like your positive attitude. So,
Could I just chime in here?
yes, sure. Go ahead.
So I appreciate the comment, and in particular relating to the roof, we did highly consider all the comments, right? In the presentation that I went through, I realized I might have skipped over some of the changes quickly, but there were comments related to the garbage area, which we expanded. There were comments related to the color of the building last time, which we did change. So there were updates made to the color of the building, which I'll quickly show here. So the back of the building was a lot darker before, and those changes we did make. In regards to the roof, if that's an item that's extremely important for this panel, that's a lot bigger of a challenge on our end than it may seem, because we spoke to a general contractor who came back to us with a price on just changing the truss system from how we have shown it to the slope roof design. And that change in cost is $300,000. Now, on top of that, they did warn us it would require additional mechanical work, additional structural work, because all of a sudden you have to plan for this mechanical equipment to no longer go on a flat roof, but a sloped roof. And to make this project work, and in the financing environment that we're in, we're already tight. And in terms of making the financing work for this project, and adding that cost may end up just putting a hold on this project altogether. Like that is a significant ask, and it's not just the $300,000 that's going to be in the roof design change. Then we're going to have to go back and figure out, okay, what's the additional cost related to mechanical? What's the implication of this with the potential tenants we have coming in? Because there's a landlord's work schedule, there's a tenant's work schedule that has been negotiated, and there's some mechanical work that they're doing, some mechanical work that we're doing. And it's not as simple as just going back and changing it to a different drawing set. There's many stakeholders involved, and changing the roof to what is being asked is going to delay this project significantly.
I'll just stop you there. Thank you very much for your comment. I would like to just state one thing. This property, well, if we go back in time, when your design started, you would have been familiar with the design, the guidelines set in place, and familiar with what they articulate you should be trying to achieve with the architecture. And that should have been in your at the beginning of your design development. That should have been in the forefront of your mind as you move forward. And so I think it's kind of, what's the word, disingenuous to say that at this stage it's going to be a hardship financially for you when you didn't consider the design guidelines from the outset, I suppose. I don't know if anyone wants to comment further. Yeah.
We did have significant conversation with Kyle about this. So if you look at our initial submission of the drawings to Kyle, the design was different. We had a flat roof. We didn't even have any slopes whatsoever in the design. So there has been changes that we have incorporated.
Okay. We can't speak for the other parts of the process. We're here at this stage doing this, and that's our job. And if the other aspects other interfaces you've had don't respect these requirements, that's maybe what we have to talk about. I wanted to mention something about your idea of roofs. The quality we're asking for is to fit in with the nature of the area and the idea of a roof. Nobody said that you have to come in with exposed glued laminated timber beams, polished, for the whole building, or any kind of roof for the whole building. What we're asking for is that you fit in with the context properly, considering also that this requirement is for the idea of roofs or that you mesh with the roofs. So the first phase you did, where you put up parapet walls with a tilted top, is a gesture toward that idea of a roof. That's how you framed it when you first presented it to us. And what we're saying is a parapet with a slope top with a board nailed to the front of it to call it an overhang doesn't do it. Because what you're actually transmitting more than a sloped roof is a iconic kind of strip facade element that symbolizes this or that. Sort of like neo Whistler kind of ruggedness, whatever you want to call it. So you're arguing that you can't do it because you can't afford to put a slope roof on the whole building. We're not even sure what kind of roof you're thinking of. You said something about trusses. An architect should be able to understand these kinds of processes. I mean, you've got thousands of examples in so many cities where there were good buildings done that didn't cost the world because you're not putting a roof on the whole thing. You're making it look the right way and do the right things spatially, which doesn't, you're making it into a black and white. Let me put it this way. You're making it into a black and white question when it doesn't need to be.
And another thing I'll add is the existing building, we're very limited in what we can do. When you go inside the Serious Coffee, they've got a truss roof system in there, but the rest of that building has a flat roof with the arches at the front. That's just a facade. So even if we, let's just say we were able to do a slope roof for the other buildings, it's impossible for us to do it for the existing building. And then if we don't do it for the existing building, it's going to create an inconsistent look between the plaza. Like it's impossible based on without us redoing the entire existing building, which we legally can't do because we have existing leases in place with the existing tenants. We are going to end up with building B having what we're proposing right now, and building A, C, and D having something that is different.
Okay, I'm just going to make a slight rebuttal here. Number one, it's not really a rebuttal because you didn't respond at all to what I just said. But I'm going to reiterate what I said, is that obviously the existing building would need to be reconstructed to provide different kinds of roofs on it. And you're trying to reuse a building, which is a plus. That's a good thing. As I said, the requirement here is to fit in with this area, and that roofs are required, or it's a response that we require, which does not oppose the idea of a sloped roof kind of area. That does not mean you have to roof everything. That does not mean you have to rebuild the existing building to now be a vaulted ceiling. All it means is that you need to make a viable response. Slope top parapets that look like chimneys don't do it. And nobody here is really feeling that they do it, as far as I can understand. So we're asking you to come toward that idea of this area rather than Wembley Mall, and toward the idea that there's a roofs which are already represented in the existing building to some degree. I think you should talk to your architect to learn more about how that could work, rather than just blocking it every time you respond to us. So there's no requirement for you to respond right now because we're just making our recommendations. But I think it would be helpful if you were more open-minded to the possibilities, because there are a lot, and they're not automatically going to cost you $500,000.
Just so I'm completely clear on this, so if building B stayed as how we're proposing, right? You guys would be fine with that?
Can you repeat that, please?
If building B were to stay how the roof design of building B was to stay how we are proposing it, you guys would be fine with that?
I think that we would need to see a proposal. Because if we say anything here now, then you will assume that we knew what you were thinking of. But we don't know exactly what you mean, because of course, building B is not all flat roof. So let's just try to understand the intentionality, talk to your architect. That's where I would leave it.
So this drawing that I have pulled up, this is what building B is going to look like in the future. And I just don't see a way where we can do anything other than what is proposed in terms of roof shape.
I can, and I think other people can too. So maybe you should talk to other people to find out more about how to do it.
So
I can't design, sorry, I can't design it for you. I can't
No,
give you
but
design
you-
suggestions.
can you just give me a description? Like, do you want it? Because I work in construction. We work on other commercial buildings. We do a ton of working with roofs, trusses. I'm a civil engineer by education. I'm just confused. I'm lost because I just don't know how we could.
Okay, I'm just going to interrupt you for a minute. Could you show us sheet A2.2, and maybe we can help you understand by looking at this. It shows the original building and your proposed building. You need to find the middle ground between those two, is what I like in the most simplistic terms. Those are
So-
very different characters.
Yeah, let me just pull up pictures of the current roof.
I just think that those two side by side, there's a lot of the design between the one to the other, there's a range between those two. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's obvious to me that there's somewhere in between.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Are
there you
you
go.
able to see this now? So
Yes.
essentially what we have currently is similar to what we are proposing. So we've got a facade here that at the front looks like this, right? But it's just a design, like there's nothing behind it. So and what essentially what we're proposing is just to replace this front, keep this will stay as is, and then just replace the front is what we're proposing. And I just like, are you suggesting that we do more work here and kind of, because it isn't possible because the tenants are using this mechanical work. There's no way for us to.
Okay, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I think that when you look at the building from this side, you see that the whole building is not a sloped roof. And yet the qualities it's presenting are something that a lot of people would think are good. Right? You've got
Yeah.
both there. You've got the parts of the building that are very efficiently designed, but you've also got an effect going on, which helps people to connect this building more with the nature around or the other buildings around, which behind them, the residential buildings have copied this roof slope already. They're there. I think they were influenced. So you're seeing kind of a version of what we're talking about. And in fact, your proposal is the same kind of thing, except you're sticking a different front on the building in a very much more superficial, stage-like manner. Slightly more
So-
superficial and stage-like. This, the dormers or the roof form across the front of that flat roofed building fools most people. It even has windows where you can see that there's space inside, even though I don't think they're using that space. So you already have an example. I mean, I'm not saying I advocate this kind of design personally, but I think that you have an example right before you. And the difference is just that you're stripping that part of the building off and trying to replace even the part of the building that is a sloped roof with something that looks like a flat roof building. And we're questioning that, the utility of that. And then, of course, the new buildings, you have more freedom with those. And I think that's where we have to go a little bit more. I'm trying to say you have an example in front of you of something like what we're asking. I would go for more integrity, but it gives you the idea of what we're asking you to do here.
Okay, so, and then, let me just go back to building B here. So essentially you would, what, just so I understand clearly, is what you would like to see is for building B only, a redesign of this, like just something that in terms of character is closer to what's existing there.
I think I would revert back to the permit area requirements that you have to look into, not just building B, but all the buildings, first of all. And that the roof aspect is requested by this community in its document. And that people will be happy to see what represents that kind of a feeling. And if you refer to the building as it is and go from there, it will probably be the easier path. There's some architects who would try and invent roof from scratch, and you might end up with a really bad problem because it's too abstract or something. But what you're proposing does not represent either the natural area, because it refers to the other side of the city, which is no longer natural, and the idea of roofs, which is specifically requested for this area. As I said, I think you should talk to your architect, have a bit of a brainstorming session and see where you can go with it.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And after, so initially on this building, we had proposed flat, you know, it was completely flat. And then, you know, we were told to look at the design, look at section 1B of the design guidelines, which says you should do a featured slope roof in traditional lodge or West Coast contemporary style. And for building B, for the West Coast contemporary style, if we were to implement that into building B, the only solution that I can think of, and we spent a lot of time on this, is something similar to this. Like I'm you know, I'm sure we can maybe combine these two into one, and we can maybe, you know, make this a little, instead of splitting it up, maybe make this, you know, one tire thing that's a little bit more sloped. But generally, for building B specifically, which is, you know, we're limited in terms of how much work we can do on it. Unfortunately, there's just a limited number of solutions. So, at least for building B, when we're sticking with a West Coast contemporary style and combining it with what we have and what we're working with, I just want to get a clear understanding of what your ideal scenario would be, just so I don't go back and talk to the architect and we come up with a solution and we come back again and you're disappointed.
Well, I think that you just highlighted the main problem with today's meeting is that your architect is not present. And that could have been extremely helpful. And maybe this meeting should have been postponed if they weren't able to attend. So that's one note. We can't tell you specifically what to do. We can reference the area guidelines and try to guide you towards some thinking around the building. I'm a landscape architect, not an architect, but I can already think of many things that could be incorporated into these buildings to try to reference the character that the community wants without it impacting the actual building, the internal building form. So there isn't one way to do anything, and there are lots of ways this can be done without you turning it into something that you can't build because of costs.
I 100% agree, but my point being is, for me personally, and and my conversation with the architect ownership, we feel like that building B, especially building B, is a fine balance of the constraints that we have with that building and a sloped roof in West Coast contemporary style.
I think that the architect who works on this has a chance, which would be really exciting, is in a certain sense to help define what that proper Parksville look in this area might be. I'm saying that because it shows you a certain openness to what could happen. There's no formula here. You're using a formula right now, or your building is using a formula right now. It kind of relates to DQ quite a lot. But what we're suggesting is that there's a character here which can be represented in many different ways. And once again, I hear you having trouble articulating or figuring out what exactly you would do. But I would ask you, do you understand where we're pointing? Don't worry about the solution right now. With a little bit of time and a little brainstorming, it will come. But do you understand which way we're pointing? Can you say that you're kind of getting the idea of that? And number two, if you work with the other buildings and create an image like, which is, you're saying there's more flexibility in buildings A, C, and D. So if you work with those buildings and then try to bring building B into it in terms of what's possible financially and structurally and so on, you might find a way to approach it by, first of all, getting your look for the other buildings, and then trying to make building B come into that space or into that look. That's one way to go about it. But I really, again, recommend that you talk to someone who's qualified in this area to work through the issues. And I mean, obviously, maybe don't have to say it, but I don't agree that you don't have a lot of options. I don't agree. I think that the problem here is finding people who are able to do the work.
So another comment I'll make is we looked at 8 different color schemes for this building, and they all kept in mind that 1A says this design should generally complement the natural character of the area and its use of foreign materials, colors, and finishes. And we looked at 8 different color schemes, and we also had a tough conversation with Burger King, who is looking at leasing in building A. And we showed this design guideline to them and said, hey, it's not going to, the red that you want as part of the DP design isn't going to work because it doesn't complement the natural character of the area. And Kyle can attest to this. We had conversations with Kyle about, you know, the colors of Burger King and stuff like that. So for me, I personally, and the architect as well, the owners as well, we looked at 8 different color schemes for this building, and we felt like this is the best color scheme. We do like the color scheme. And that was one of the items that you pushed back on, and we did make small changes to the colors this time around. And even with the roof, right? I would love to see specific examples, you know, even in the area of roofs that would work. And going back to my earlier point where, you know, building A, C, and D have, you know, there's more flexibility there, but with building B, we are constrained. And I also don't want a plaza where building B has a different roof than building A, C, and D. And that's going to look odd. And that's the whole reason for us doing a facade lift on it as well. Like, it's not a requirement of the development for us to do anything to building B. We want to do something, you know, we want to spend the money and make it look better. But I also don't want the roof of building B to be different than A, C, and D.
Okay, I'm going to stop the comments for now because I think we have to, as a advisory design panel, decide how we're going to move forward. And we appreciate all of your comments, and helps us understand your position and what you're grappling with. And maybe it can help us be more specific in our recommendations if we're adding to today. I think it's really hard because we can't tell you what to do, but I even see in the couple examples you included as a justification for your design, more reference to the character we're looking for, the house, for example, and that the one slope roof unit, there is a materiality there that's references what we're looking for a little bit more than your buildings. So just that, I'm just going to say that, but I think we need to move forward. We, with what we need to decide as a panel, how we want to move forward, what we want to say and what we want to recommend. And maybe with having listened to the applicant, we can be as specific as we're able to within the constraints of not being too specific.
And if you don't mind, I would like to chime in here too. For me, ideally, if we can get very specific recommendations, and taking, you know, as long as they don't impact the cost significantly. You know, I'm not saying if it increases cost by 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, we're not going to do it. We'll implement those for sure. Like if there's specific recommendations we can get that are,
I think we're not allowed to by BC law. So I'm quite certain that a municipality can't be that specific. So we are going to have to be slightly general. You're going to have to take what you heard. That's why it's unfortunate your architect wasn't present and wasn't able to respond. Yes, so we can have we have to have it a public, we can have a conversation about how we want to move forward. I'm pretty sure we would like to have this return, and we would like to maybe reiterate some of maybe our previous recommendations with more nuance. Yeah.
I think that the first time we sent the request that's on this one sheet here is basically just repeating the guideline. That's all we sent, and you know my email, right?
Yes, yes. So we can maybe we can elaborate a little. Are we able to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, we could include language where you make suggestions like such as long as it's somewhat open-ended and it's not too specific.
Well, we don't want to be specific.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, so,
Could we, for example, we could go through, if we go to point one, we've had a discussion also with the proponent, and we know a little bit about his reticence or his questions also about how to implement this. So we could add to that saying that we want to have, we could go something that builds more on the way the building B looks now than it does on these other examples that he gave us. Although any roof form is, it's possible we look at any form. He doesn't have to stick to a specific roof form. And I don't know if there's any way to express this whole idea. Like, as an architect, I'm really reticent to say, let's just plaster a nice front on this box.
I agree with you. I understand, but that's sort of where we're.
But the idea here is that there are possibilities for building portions of a building like out of the box. And then at the facade, at the front that you're looking at, you can build portions that have more loft, that go up a little bit higher. A lot of times you've seen this, for example, in warehouses, where the warehouse is really just tilt-up concrete with a truss system that comes off a catalog. And yet at the front, where they have a little office, they build a special part onto the front so that the customer, when they come, have a sense of arrival and all of that. That mentality, I'm sure you've seen it in various buildings. So that the thing that you're building, the way you're building the building isn't just a stick-on, but it actually engages the front of the building or the customer side of the building more. Now we're getting into the architectural discussion a little bit, but I wonder if we could find some language that implies the flexibility that goes away from saying roof the whole thing with a sloped roof, which is kind of dumb. We're not doing that. We're not making it that. And implies that the proponent has to get or should get, not shall, but should get the expertise he needs to develop this. He shouldn't take on the burden himself personally to figure this out before he goes somewhere. Rather, engage someone who you can say, look, I need to solve these problems. Will you help me? This is not, this is a big building. This is a big project. And it isn't just something that you spin off one morning while you're eating your cereal. It takes a little bit of work to figure it out. That's what we get paid for.
And I agree. For us, for me, what does hurt right now is me, the owners and the architect, we're proud of this design. We spent a lot of hours, and Andrea is a member of, ADP committees, and she advises on designs as well. And I know she's proud of this design too. So, I feel like on certain items, it's just a difference in opinion.
I'm going to interrupt. I don't think it is a difference of opinion. There's clearly a character that isn't being, I'm kind of getting annoyed with this return to, we've done the best we can. And we're telling you, you haven't, and you haven't read the guidelines, and you haven't looked around and understood the area and what the town, the city of Parksville would like you to do. And this looks like it could go anywhere. It does not look like this is Parksville. This is the area where we have our resorts, where we have still big stands of trees that embrace some of those spaces. That is a place people come to vacation even. This looks like a space that can go anywhere. And it's subtle how you can make it fit in, but it can be done. And so we need to sort of pause. We understand, we've heard you or listening to you, and now we just need to, as a panel, come up with our recommendations and we'll be as specific as we can within the constraints we have. Okay, so
So
that said, I do want to say one more thing, that this is a significant spot for the community and it's a privilege to be able to design it. And you're telling us you've embraced that, but we're not seeing that. So please hear that. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move forward with our discussion to figure this out because I would like to be finished on time. Okay.
Right, so the language for number one, I
Yeah.
was just trying to get into that and
Yes,
I got a
good.
little lost on that. But how are we gonna make the language for number one that is more helpful, let's say, rather than specific, more helpful, that we've addressed the issues that are being faced in the design problem, like how do we actually, the question was like, how do I actually do this? What do you actually mean? And so on. So all we have to do now is reflect that these qualities, which are basically just 2 or 3 words on paper, are reflected in light of our discussion, that we're not asking for a radical rebuild of building B. I mean, how can we ask for more than is already being asked for? We're saying,
Can I make a suggestion?
yeah,
You could perhaps point out for number one, because it is quite broad, just looking at architectural design and character, including the building in general. But perhaps you may want to highlight some different use of different materials or color palettes or roof articulation,
it's not working.
canopies, I don't know.
Well, I'm noting that we didn't make a recommendation about the exterior finishes, did we? We didn't ask them to emphasize the use of wood or stone previously. 1C. Because the reality is the use of wood and timber does bring a certain quality that can't be captured in something that's mimicking wood.
What if we said something like, which references what's already going on? He brought some pictures from other parts of Parksville. We could reference that the building should fit specifically within to the residential area behind it, which,
The development of Great Bay.
no, just the, like when you're driving by, you can see the houses behind it, right? Right.
Okay.
So that it should reflect and fit with that residential area as much as it fits with the taller trees that are still standing.
Mhm.
And then also they can reference the existing building even if they take down, we can say, you can reference the existing building in terms of the traditions it comes from and what kind of image it's trying to project. And if the new design can do that in some way, it's a step toward what needs to happen. So reflecting the built fabric behind the building, reflecting the fact that it's standing amongst trees, and reflecting the still existing building that they're going to work on. Maybe modernizing the new building, modernizing that kind of an image in a way that they can work with. He's saying he wants A, B, C, and D to be the same or similar. So you can work with that, that you're building a new building and then putting some of that newness onto the existing building, reflecting those characteristics that it has now. And I think reflecting those characteristics now is a good way to go, because the people living in town, the people who come here year after year for holidays, they will remember that and they will appreciate that quality that you've brought into the future, you've brought forward in whatever form you can manage to do it. Okay, so coming back to the text, those 3 things, I think that those 3 things can help to frame it properly. right? Building behind, just being amongst all the trees and what kind of buildings are appropriate. And number three is to bring the look of the actual building you're working on, building B, future building B, forward in time so that it's, you know, made the way it would be made now as opposed to 50 years ago.
Am I the only one noting that, or are you noting that, Sarah?
How do you feel about that?
Yeah. There's something else that we didn't really talk about, and it also, I can just see it really improving this building, and it's having like more covered area in front of the buildings, and that would already change the energy of it and the feeling, like a continuous, covered. If you had a continuous covered area, it could break up and become open with like there's just lots of things, but I can just, there's something missing on this, that it's so close to looking like a warehouse building and not anything else other than that. And so it's like, that would be part of our item.
I think adding that, I think we could tie that to point number 7, which has to do with solar
Yeah.
issues. This building faces south, and I wanted to ask, does the town ever request people to do energy studies of their buildings? Is that ever, is there any kind of requirement in the city to control energy use in buildings?
There are provincial requirements.
Provincial.
Looking at the air work or the, you know, air tightness of buildings and things like that.
Right.
Things of that nature. But we don't require anything that shows solar orientation. Usually, sometimes we ask for that at rezoning stage. If it's an especially tall building or close to residences, things like that. For this, it's not something that we would typically ask for.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, I'm
Thank
just
you.
going to kind of zoom out for 1 second. I'm guessing that in our general, we're still focused. We had some recommendations that the landscape architect included, but they were still working with the existing site plan. So we know we want to make a point about the building. So it's just trying to get the language. Right? Are there other recommendations we still want to make that we don't feel have been, other than around the building and how we do that? I just thought if I have a sense of what we're trying to, we know we need to make something, we want to find a way to speak to the building using our different points. Is there anything, what about the site design? Yeah.
Can we just go with the points that we already had one by one and then see if we want to upgrade them
Okay, so
or erase them? If we want to erase one or the other. So we're on number 1 now. Do we have those 4 points or 3 points for the first one?
so we want,
You wanted to add the cover.
and so with respect to guidelines 1A, 1B, and 1C, we didn't reference 1C previously, but maybe that's why this is not on
1C.
page.
Exterior finish. Oh, I see. That's why you were adding it. Sure.
Yeah, because,
But it's already there. So we just have to say, do it.
yeah,
But they would say they're already doing it. They've got stone.
yeah,
So, it's there. So we just kind of say we should do it. I mean, it's already there.
yeah,
And that should not be ignored. That's all. I mean,
yeah.
it's a funny thing because now we have to say some of these things are being ignored and we're not talking about them. So
Yes.
we actually have to talk about which things you can ignore. That's kind of what we're at, the space we're in here. But I think A, B, and C and those 3
So-
points would be fine.
Okay, so with respect to guidelines 1A, 1B, 1C, readdress the architectural design and character, including the form of the building and roof slopes. with an, how do we want to say it, with, I'm trying to think of the word to connect it to the 3 points of that embrace or that embrace. No.
Embrace
Embrace,
and harmonize with the immediate area,
Mhm.
meaning the housing,
The housing.
the idea that it's a residential area, and then the trees all around, which are kind of enveloping it,
Yeah,
and
which is,
then to build on and develop from the existing architecture, dare I say.
yes,
Perhaps modernizing it, making it better, but they can
Mhm.
riff on that actual building and
and then
That's it.
there's still something,
well, we
yeah.
could say as an example,
Mhm.
the existing building could be evolved or the characteristics taken forward. That's all. Just say
Yeah,
as an
yeah.
example.
I agree with that. Like, I can see how you could still
That gives them
have
something to
a
work with.
reference to that sort of Tudor without it being Tudor, but it still has a reference somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, did you happen to get all that? I'm not good at writing and speaking, but okay, so that's our,
So I have, we're gonna retain point number 1, add in with respects to guidelines 1A, B, 1B, and 1C, readdress architectural design and character, including the form of the building and roof slopes. And then we were gonna add on, with consideration of harmonizing with the immediate area to include consideration of houses behind, trees, and build on the existing existing architectural building, such as the existing building could be referenced and modernized.
I would, instead of trees, I would say the surrounding forested character.
Sure.
okay, that sounds good.
And
Good
then
for now.
I had noted on here too, something about continuous cover area along the frontage. Is that part of that recommendation as well, or a separate?
I think I could even see, I don't, even if that was added to this building, it's already moved it one step closer to where we would like it to go. It's moved, inched a little bit more. Yeah. So is that in reference to 7? I don't have 7 in the. Yeah.
Yeah, or is it 8 with solar orientation and shading considerations in
Oh,
the
thank
building
you.
design?
Yeah. What number was that, Christine? Sorry? 8.
I think the next one was number 2, though. I don't know why we're going to 7 or 8 now.
Just because talking the cover, that's all.
Oh,
Because of the cover. Okay, so, let's be
Did you like
systematic
to
and we'll
add
go
cover?
through.
Did we add cover to number 1? Because that's
It's an architecture, it's part of, yeah.
it's not really, gardens generally complement the natural carry of the area forms of. I guess we could just say the same thing twice. Basically say that in terms of the character and form, we should have greater overhangs due to rain and sun. And
Yes,
then for the climate aspect,
we re-emphasize that. Okay. Did you get that? No. Oh, okay. For the character and form to I'm sorry, you said I'm having.
I was just saying, okay, we finished with the character and form,
Yeah.
kind of harmonizing with the housing behind.
Yeah.
And the other point would be to add more covered areas, both for shade and rain protection, which gives the building more depth and
Yeah.
character.
Yes. Perfect.
That's all.
And yes, please go ahead.
And just to clarify, is that along the frontage of the building?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. And because I'll be honest, I haven't found these illustrations as clear as sometimes they are. So I'm not always getting that sense of where there's overhangs or not. But right now with the existing building, there is continuous coverage. There's a little bit that you have to dash around. And I can tell you from personal experience of times in the pouring rain and doing that dash to get to that. And then you can walk all along there. So it would be great, not only for summer sun, but also the other. And also the comment that would that add to the look of the building? Absolutely. And particularly if we had something that looked more like wood, and mentioning the nearby trees along Arbutus, quelle surprise, there are many arbutus trees, and that lovely color of the bark of the arbutus, would really be nice to have along there. And I can't help but think, and I'm really not an architect, obviously, but, trying to imagine this in any way as West Coast contemporary, I think there has to be more of a wood look to it in order to get that feeling.
Yeah.
So
And those overhangs too
Yes,
will help
but
with that. Yeah.
yeah. May I ask, I don't know if it is in one of the guidelines, but I would really hope that there would be some either completely blocking or mitigating any sound that would be coming from people ordering anything, if it is the plan to have a drive-through there.
Okay.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Well, how about we, just because I'm conscientious of the time, shall we move through our old points? So we've gone through, no, it's okay. It's okay. Well, we've done number 1.
Yeah.
And we've elaborated on it. And do you have everything? Okay. Now, number
two.
2.
We heard it's pretty difficult to change the buildings around.
Mhm.
But I think I understand that because it's already drawn on the paper. My God, there are no foundations in the ground. We can move it anywhere, but still. 2 things I would like to point out is that although I mentioned before, sound is hard to mitigate in such proximity to the highway. But once again, creating spaces inside the site which shelter people is recommended from my side. I guess I should be looking at you.
Does that go in under 2?
That's under 2, yeah. In terms of that specific guidance, in terms of the site placement on the site is, there was a recommendation to widen the gap between B and A. That might be something to be considered to make the value of building B remain higher because it does have windows on the side. And then in terms of the setback, I've just looked at the paper here. It is not hard to create that setback. There's a couple of spatial solutions which I can just work out here. So in terms of the space, keeping the setback as it should be, or as it's recommended in the zoning, and even possibly widening the gap between the daycare and that neighboring building is possible without losing square footage on the ground. But that part you don't add.
How much have how much are they not? Actually not clear.
2
It's not
meters.
clear to me. Kyle, are you able to comment?
Yes, the required setback is 7.5 meters and the building is shown at 5.1 meters. From the property line, from the south property line that's adjacent to 1225 Franklin's Goal.
So you'd have to cut 6 feet off the back of the building and put it on the side. Anyway, that's also part of the site discussion. I understand personally that resiting building A would create a major amount of work to do parking and everything all over again and rethink all of the landscaping and so on. But I think we should put it in and see what happens.
o- okay, does anyone else have any comment on that? Do you? So that point would be, I'm sorry.
We can do a final reading once we've gone through them all
Okay.
and then make final corrections.
So that would be under two. And with respect to guideline 2A, reconsider the site and built form of the building as it respects natural features of the site. Yeah,
If you consider a natural feature to be that you're on a highway,
yeah,
so, I mean, it actually, the wording is a little bit awkward because
Yeah.
it talks about contours of the site and the natural
Yeah.
features, but it doesn't reference actually, practical issues such as the highway and urban issues.
yeah, it's harder to integrate that one there, but okay. Let's just move forward. With respect to number 3, I think the landscape architect has made an effort to improve the plant material, but I think I'll just leave it as to, I think I can't be that specific, but I'm just sort of surprised. There's trees that there's just one change in it and it would be the tree that's growing here versus what is. Just to further, with respect to 3A, review the choice of plant materials and choose plantings native to the coastal Douglas fir ecosystem, specifically here in Parksville. So to further, can I ask them to further review? Okay. With respect to guideline 3B, provide additional clarity to the landscape plan. I think they provided us with more information. So we've got the information. So we don't need that one. Strike 4. 5, with respect to guideline 3C, Northwest Bay Road Boulevard property frontage should generally feature more native plantings. So they did increase the plantings along there. So there's some effort made. So we'll strike that. Reassess accessibility across the site. So I still feel like they've made one step forward, but I think there needed to be a few more steps forward. I think all the public space common areas should have pedestrian safe walking routes. So there should be crosswalks to move, like even if it's painted on the ground, there should be a safe route to move through the whole site from building CBA. So they have almost done that, but so we're going to maintain, yeah, okay.
I guess that would be, to make it more specific, would be say a safe, like you said, a safe connection between all buildings.
For pedestrians.
And we could add in the quality of saying those can be associated with, what would you call it? I can't think of the right terminology, but internal spaces,
Well,
I-
like the common
I said,
amenity spaces,
yeah,
Yeah.
amenity spaces,
outdoor amenities.
pedestrian, outdoor spaces can be associated with that path.
Public spaces?
Public spaces,
Yeah.
yes, to turn it from being a merely technical
Yeah,
safety route to actually being something architectural
yeah.
that
And
flows through the site.
even in
which
front
combines
of,
with
yeah.
point 2. To combine with point 2, which is talk about the way the buildings are arranged on the site.
Yeah.
All 3 of those can work together.
Yeah, and there can be dedicated pedestrian space in front of the existing building as well, whether they add bollards to define that space or paint. It doesn't have to be a raised sidewalk. There are ways to delineate space for pedestrians. So I think that's one of its weaker points is that the pedestrian connectivity has not been is the bare minimum. Yeah. Especially with an understanding of the users of this site. There are groups of walkers, of cyclists. They need easy ways to flow through and connect to the different CRUs, coffee, whatever is presented. So that one still stands, I guess. Is that right? Number 6? 7. Okay, so any
We-
comments on that?
We don't have our advocate for accessible spaces. But if we have 4 buildings and 4 spaces deployed in pairs at 2 of the buildings.
Yeah.
You feel it's adequate?
I think there should be accessible spaces for every building. Yeah, especially with the demographics of the community.
And since we still have an extra 9 spaces.
Yeah. So they've almost done that, but not quite. So should we say, we can elaborate, to be reconsider the amount of parking and non-pervious surfaces and consider the provision of additional accessible stalls. So consider the provision of additional accessible stalls per building or include the addition of accessible stalls for each building.
Yeah, so right now we have C and D. There are 2 spaces that are basically in front of that building. I mean, they're close together, but we don't have any for building B.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, yeah,
Okay, now we're to this number 8, which respective guidelines 9D, 9E, and 9F reconsider opportunities for solar orientation and shading considerations in the building design and orientation. So is that where you'd like to talk about or do we want to elaborate,
well.
add the same note about the over?
We could reference the note in point 1. Say in reference to the note in point 1 that the overhangs should be that there's, how would you do it? That solar considerations should be dealt with through the overhangs how would you say it? I'm losing the terminology. There's some.
To support, what's the word when we?
Well, the thing is, it's creating
Mitigate.
shading. We want
Mitigate.
to have shading, right?
Yeah.
And number 9 should reference the shading of pedestrian areas and sheltering of the buildings from solar gain.
And also rain, protection from rain.
Right. This one doesn't reference rain, though. It only references the solar.
Did you get that, Sarah?
Sorry. Yeah.
So what I had noted was keep what we already have and then add in a point about solar consideration could be addressed through shading of pedestrian areas and sheltering the building for solar gain.
Yeah. Sheltering pedestrians and sheltering the building from solar gain.
Okay. Number 9, I think they revisited the number of garbage. They did something. Yeah. So we can strike that one, or was there a note?
Is that okay?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. I do have a question about lighting. It wasn't really clear to me about the lighting. And I know that in the recommendations, backlit plastic signs, neon signs, and readograph signs are generally discouraged. And yet I got the impression that the plan is to have backlit signs, so I wasn't sure about that. I have seen others, well, it does say that they're below level. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but, and floodlit. So I imagine floodlit would be more like the type of sign that they actually have at both McDonald's, for instance, and Tim Hortons, where they have a curve out and the light shines on the sign rather than the sign itself being backlit. So I wonder if there's any comment about that, because like it says here that they should be discouraged, and I can appreciate why that's the case.
So I think we can emphasize, since there was a lack of clarity from the presenter, was there? Well, Yeah, that they.
Yeah, it's kind of
yeah, do you
generic.
have a
He's-
com-
He seemed to suggest that that the CRU signage, is that what you're referring to? The CRU signage? The CRU, the name of the store, whatever it is. He seemed to say that was backlit channel letters. That's what I understood. It means basically there's a backlit portion, and the letters are sort of in contrast against that light, as opposed to the individually lit channel letters. There's a sort of distinction there.
And just in my experience, that can be so obtrusive, the backlit signs. You see some coming
It's
down the
not- it's
highway,
not the
but
Panel, it's not the
No.
panel kind of backlit signage. These are sort of.
Is it like cut out, like if it was metal, it's cut out and then there's just a light behind it? So you see
Yeah,
the silhouette.
there's light,
of the
this is
light
more of a
silhouette.
silhouette look. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fine, I prefer individually lit channel letters, but
Yeah.
it's not.
there was a reference at some point saying low level. So I just really hope that means low level.
Well, we could just emphasize that the lights comply with number 5 signage, that they're not, that like we encourage them. It's generally discouraged to be a certain way, and then it's encouraged to be low level and floodlight, and should employ the use of wood and stone finishes. So that's, yeah,
If I may interrupt,
yeah.
I believe that was more for the freestanding signage.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And
So not
their-
on the building.
Their freestanding signage is limited to about 2 meters high,
Yeah,
so not very high. And also was not considered to be floodlit, but with the channel lettering, it is not considered to be backlit like a light box would. So I considered it to seem to fit the guideline at that point, but obviously if it doesn't, or if the panel determines it doesn't, then it can certainly say so.
yeah, I suppose there is no site lighting that we've been shown other than on the building. Yeah, thank you.
I believe the lighting plan was furnished at the last meeting with the spec sheets as well.
Oh, okay, okay.
There was a
so-
lighting plan. It's not, we don't have the lights here, right?
Right, okay. Okay,
It's interesting. The difference is that with the channel lighting, you're only seeing the light reflected off a material. Whereas the other ones, it works like a light fixture where the light is shining through some
Can you
surface.
just speak a little bit
Oh,
closer to the microphone?
sorry.
Thank you.
I said the difference is that with the channel lighting, you're only seeing the light that's reflected off a surface, painted, stone, concrete, whatever. Whereas the other kind of light, you're shining it through something. So if you think of a McDonald's sign, the light is shining through the red and through the gold. And it can be even brighter than that, right? So that I think what they're talking about here is that it's only going to be channel light, which is indirect. I think that's what they're talking about, right? Is that what was there in the original plan?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Where are we? Number 10. Okay, so they have included the design of public gathering and seating spaces, but I think so we can strike that, whether it's,
Weren't you saying something about the location being a little bit off,
yeah.
like being at the
it's-
back? So-called back. Well, it's good if the building doesn't have a back.
Yes, but it
Right?
does.
So because we're facing the residential.
Yeah.
Right now, the building B has a back, how is the back of the building just has a blank wall with some doors in it?
Yes, which is true right now as well, right? But I was very concerned that, and it doesn't show any light on the back. That's nice, but the sound, if there is a menu board and ordering at the back there, I was very concerned
I
about
was
that.
referring
but
to
we're-
the seating area.
Oh, the seating area. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I missed that bit.
Um,
No, I think the seating area at the back really,
Like, it's tricky. So they've provided additional seating based on our recommendations.
Right,
The back one, the one note, there is the front of those other buildings looking onto it.
right.
So it's not a complete back.
And that's good.
Yes.
That's actually a good thing. Number
So
two.
maybe
is
that's okay.
It's also on the north side, so it would be get more shade. So that's also a positive, and it's opposite that berm, whatever's there, however that's gonna look by the time they're done. That's actually city property, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's green.
Yeah, like they look out to green. So I
Yeah.
think it's
It's not a bad.
It's not
location.
ideal, but it's not bad in working within the site design that they have.
It brings to mind something else that we could mention in number one, sorry. That the building really has two fronts. And that the design, if it's going to be addressed, of course, buildings C and D are good for that condition. But building B and the new building, A, are both tending to have that back, which for the community is not a back. It's a big difficulty in any building, especially a commercial building, because you need the service side and you need but we could write it in if you guys are interested and say they could look into making the building not be completely black and white front back. Especially building A, because building B, you can't change much.
I mean, we mentioned a bit about color palettes
Yeah.
as referenced.
They've done
So-
something.
So aside from wood and stone, and you're talking about the back of the buildings. I mean, I think that can be addressed to some degree with some variation in color palette, maybe using, if they're still gonna use some hardy panels or something that have different,
I think
you
he
know,
showed
color
a drawing.
variation.
He's already proposing that. It's got vertical sections
Mhm.
going on all across the back. So that's already positive.
It's not like I've seen worse backs, so there is
Yeah.
some understanding. Oop.
Also, there is additional planting towards Arbutus, between Arbutus Road and coming in towards the site, which will, I think, soften a little, it should soften the look of the back from Northwest Bay Road, which I do think that helps because the first edition, iteration didn't have much planting in that area. But
That's
I think
correct.
having some different panels, color would help that for sure.
Okay. Are we adding that as a note for our first comment? That would go all the way back to number one, I think.
You're talking about the rear?
Mhm.
We could just add a note of advisement saying that we appreciate the effort that's been taken and that the design should reflect that it's harmonizing with the neighbors at the back. And the building should have two sides. I don't know. I guess, yeah, it should reflect that it has a facade to the residential area as well,
Mhm.
which they're already doing, but
Yeah.
let's reinforce that. And yeah, there it is. Well, yeah, it looks okay. Step in the right direction.
Okay, so. And they added the last comment about the screening for the childcare. It's fine. I mean, they're going to work with the operators, hopefully, it sounds like to sort of design that space. So hopefully that will also help how it kind of unfolds. Okay, so would you like to review? Should we go through the points one last time to make sure we have them as we? Okay.
Okay, so I understand that the advisory design panel is requesting I'm just going to summarize that the applicant returned to the advisor design panel for further review. You'd like to keep the previous ADP recommendation point number 1, but expand it to include guidelines number 1A, 1B, and 1C to readdress architectural design and character, including the form of the building and roof slopes. And then we'd like to add on to it, consideration of harmonizing with the immediate area, including the houses behind, the surrounding forested character, and the build upon the existing architectural building. I don't think that's quite right. Such as the existing building could be referenced and modernized. So something like that.
Does that sound okay?
Rather than and modernize, say, build upon the existing building in a contemporary manner. Because modernize might,
Okay.
it has other implications.
A different time period, yeah.
Okay, point number 1 continues to also say, consider continuous cover opportunities for continuous cover area along the frontage. And then I think I expanded on that to say add more covered areas for shade and range protection on the building frontage. And then I had.
Could I say that not only the building frontage, but some of these NCRUs, there's glazing going along that other side, so there should
Okay.
be some additional canopies there.
Building frontage and sides. And then we added on towards the end of the meeting that we appreciate that effort has been taken to the rear of the building and to further consider or continue to consider the facade along the Northwest Bay Road frontage. Then we have recommendation number 2, which is respect to guideline 2A. So we're keeping that as is and adding in a additional section to say to further consider the increased separation between building A and building B, and to consider opportunities to relocate the buildings on the site to conform to the setbacks. Okay, building D. Okay,
That's not conforming to the setback, that we wanted to conform to the setback.
is it building D and C or just D?
Wait, maybe I'm getting mixed up. It's
Building C.
I'm sorry, building C, sorry.
So 2 buildings.
Building C is at 5 meters instead of 7.
Okay, so just building C, not D.
No.
Okay.
And to consider the reconfiguration to allow for internal public spaces. That's what we're talking about earlier, is that
Internal to the site.
internal to the site, yeah, because
I would just word it maybe communal spaces rather than public. since
yeah,
it's on
you
private
know, that's a
property.
better term, yeah.
Uh,
Well, there's other words too, and I can't remember them right now. I'm sorry.
I'm just recalling that there were some comments about the garbage receptacles or waste receptacles, and I don't recall how, I know that was going to be looked at, but I'm
Could-
not sure
could I
what
just-
was done.
Can I just finish reading out the recommendation?
Yes, yes, please do. Yeah,
Thank
okay,
you.
we'll go through that and then, okay.
Okay, so we've done number 1, number 2, number 3, we are keeping as is, however, adding at the end specifically in Parksville. We're removing number 4, number 5. We're retaining number 6 and adding on that all public spaces between buildings should have safe, dedicated pedestrian, oh, no. I think I might have to go back and listen to the notes. So, maybe Kate, you have it written down for number 6?
I think we wanted, yeah, sorry, let me just try. Yes, that all from all buildings to all public common outdoor spaces there should be safe pedestrian, dedicated pedestrian routes. So it doesn't have to be a sidewalk, but it has to
We
be,
talked about that there should be a safe connection between all buildings across all the driveways.
yes.
And that can harmonize with internal communal spaces. I think he said communal spaces internally,
Or gathering
or,
spaces.
and also, amenity areas. And that can be referenced to number 2, where we're talking about how the buildings are conferenced. So you can reference it to number 2. Say, 3 elements: the safe passage, amenity areas, and the way the buildings are located should all be considered in conjunction.
So you'd like
Meaning
me,
it's integrated.
so you want to amend number 2 and go back and change that one now?
No, we don't need to. You just reference number 2 in this one, saying that that's something that could be considered when they're doing number 2. I don't know if we have to revise number 2 as well. What I'm trying to say is that the locations of the buildings can be, or the form of the buildings can be modified to provide such passage and amenity areas. And I think that's what was implied in number 2, is that we wanted to have those communal and amenity areas considered in the way the buildings are laid out. That was already in the number 2 text, right?
Is that,
Did you write
Make-
that? Is that written in number 2?
I'm having a really hard time writing the notes when we're jumping between recommendations.
Yeah, well, right now
So
we're referring number,
I might have to go back and just listen to the meeting after the fact to write them out, because there's a lot of details that I'm
Okay.
having trouble writing, and then
what do you have for
Okay.
number 2 right now?
so is it possible? I know how we are asked to review the recommendations.
Yeah.
Afterwards. Can we make amendments at that moment if we don't feel they're reflective? Or do we have to figure it out right now?
so typically the panel tells us exactly what it is that they would like recorded. So I'm doing my best to try to note them, but it seems like they're being quite fluid, so so yes and no, we can't add them on after.
Correct, okay. So
I think this is not about adding. I think
No.
it's about correcting.
okay,
So
so maybe we should just go, sorry, Sarah, go back to number 2 if possible. And we can, does this make sense? And we can add to it where we need to right now.
Okay.
Okay. So number 2, right now, what do you have noted?
With respect to guideline 2A, reconsider the site and built form of the building as it respects natural features on the site, such as consider increasing the separation between building A and building B, and consider opportunities to relocate building C to conform to the setbacks, and add on communal something.
And is it that the buildings should, if the buildings need to be adjusted to accommodate the pedestrian connectivity to the common spaces, then that they should be modified to do so?
yeah, I think the building should be modified to accommodate for pedestrian connectivity, amenity spaces
Yeah, so
in a harmonious way.
does that make sense?
I can't write that fast. but
Okay,
Again, I
sorry.
can go back and we can listen to the video.
Okay. Okay. Does everyone agree with that note? Maybe. Okay. Sorry. It's a long day. Number 3 is okay. 6, okay. 7,
So number 7, I had adding on consider opportunities to provide accessible parking stalls at each building.
Correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
Number 8. Have retained what we originally had and to expand it to also state solar considerations could be addressed through sheltering of pedestrian areas and sheltering the building from solar gain. Okay, we've removed point number 9, 10, and 11.
Okay, now, Councillor Mary Bell, did you want to just review the waste receptacle location prior to us removing that from our recommendations?
Well, I was just recalling that that was one of the topics last time, and I don't think we really looked at that today.
Yes, he did point out. Yeah,
I believe they increased it, but I'm just trying to find the page where it shows the increased space.
Page on this.
I see something here on this particular page, if that's helpful, and they're in the middle now. Is it on this one? There, it looks like it's right behind building B. Before it was in a different spot, and it shows a double, but I'm not sure if there's another one. I'm not sure if that's what that is behind building A.
yes, there's two now. One, if you look at sheet L1, the landscape sheet L1, they have, they show the one garbage enclosure with a actual crossing to it. Yeah, okay. And then actually on that sheet, you can see the second one as you move. Okay. So does that sound, that's reasonable? We can remove that recommendation?
Wasn't D intending to be a restaurant? Didn't he say something about D was gonna be a restaurant? So you're going, I mean, that's kind of awkward. I know that it's awkward to put garbage down there, but at the same time, that's
Yeah.
quite a trek.
I think though, with the site design, it would be very hard, just looking at it, for them to integrate garbage by D, and it could really interfere with the street frontage appearance as well.
The only way you could do it is to actually build it into the building with a door. Like there's buildings
Yeah,
where you have.
and that I do know that's a very that does cost more money because you have to now rate it for fire, et cetera, et cetera.
That's also
Yeah.
possible to do if a restaurant moves into that building.
Yeah.
They can actually add that to the building at their own cost. But I really don't see how it would work because there's no access for.
No, I don't think it's also with the programming of building C being a childcare. I think their best option is kind of that side that they do have the garbage on. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's like hugely,
It's a downside for the tenant, depending
But-
on who the tenant is.
yeah. But that I feel like that's fine. We can
We can
live
leave-
with that. Yeah. Okay, so without having to repeat our recommendations, I would like to put forward a motion. If we're ready, are we ready? To request for the no, I'm just gonna read it properly here. That the okay, so that the motion is that the applicant of development permit, is it
3060?
file number 25007? Is that right? No, I'm looking for the ADP number for the development
It's
permit.
3060. yeah,
3060.
PTP 169.
Okay.
And that's Mr. K. Mangat.
So the applicant of development permit application number, where is that written in our information? Oh, thank you. I just want to read it properly. Okay, let's start again with our motion. That the applicant of development permit application number 3060 PDP 169. Re-examine conformance to the following development permit guidelines and prevent revisions to the advisory design panel for further review. The development permit guidelines were outlined by, as outlined previous to my motion. Does that work? Without outlining them again? So do I have someone to first that motion and seconder to that motion? Okay, Michael. Okay, so with that, I can call this meeting adjourned. Yeah, no, do we have one more thing? Oh, of course, all in favor. Never mind, that's first, right? Okay, and all in favor. I'm sorry, it's been a very long week. Okay. Okay, thank you. So then with that, we can call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for your time, patience, and insightful comments. And yes.
We just need, I think, a first and seconder to end the meeting. As
Oh, and right, so could I have someone to first to end the meeting? I guess I thought so, but now we have to add. We'll just do it again. Well, I would like to move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
Yes. All of. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your patience. Especially Sarah and Kyle.